What if the fastest growing companies you admire got there by quietly running experiments on you, and most of them never asked permission? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on how to run growth experiments the right way, because the difference between ethical testing and digital manipulation is thinner than you think, and the stakes are very real. Every growth experiment starts with a hypothesis, and that sounds innocent enough until you realize most teams skip the ethical part and jump straight to how do we juice the numbers. The catalyst behind bad experiments is almost always the same: pressure to grow fast, a culture that rewards results over process, and a dangerous belief that users won't notice. Think of your user base like a garden. You can pump it full of chemicals for a short-term bloom, or you can tend it carefully and build something that actually lasts. The companies that chose the chemical route, think dark patterns, hidden opt-outs, and manipulative push notifications, got their headlines, then got their lawsuits. There was a moment not long ago where growth hacking was the coolest phrase in Silicon Valley, plastered on every startup pitch deck from San Francisco to Singapore. Now it's practically a scarlet letter, and the optimism of that era has curdled into regulatory scrutiny, user distrust, and brand damage that took years to repair. Behavioral economists will tell you that users aren't rational, but that doesn't mean it's okay to exploit their irrationality. There's a massive difference between understanding human psychology and weaponizing it. The most respected voices in product growth, people like Brian Balfour and Reforge alumni, will consistently tell you that sustainable growth is built on genuine value delivery, not clever tricks. Here's the thing about growth cycles that nobody wants to say out loud. We have been here before, and the pattern is almost embarrassingly predictable. Explosive growth built on manipulation eventually collapses under the weight of its own shortcuts. The community wisdom among serious growth practitioners is that experiments built on transparency and consent don't just perform better ethically, they actually outperform manipulative ones in long-run retention metrics. One of the biggest misconceptions is that ethical constraints slow you down in reality. Clear hypotheses, proper control groups, and honest data interpretation make your experiments faster and more reliable, not slower. Respecting users means not running 17 simultaneous tests on the same cohort, which, if you've ever tried to interpret that data, produces results about as useful as a weather forecast from 1973. So here is what the historical record actually teaches us. Companies that built consent-first experimentation frameworks, like Spotify and Duolingo, didn't sacrifice growth, they compounded it, because trusted products get shared, and shared products grow without paid acquisition eating your margins alive. The practical lesson is to always define your success metric before you launch the test, never after, because post hoc rationalization is just lying to yourself with extra steps. Your experiment design needs 3 non-negotiables: a clearly stated hypothesis, a minimum detectable effect that's actually meaningful to users, and a predetermined end date, so you don't just keep the test running until it accidentally hits significant. Position size matters here too. Don't roll a radical change to 100% of your users on day 1. Start with 5 or 10%, learn cheap, and scale what actually works. Discipline and experimentation looks like killing tests that show neutral results even when you really wanted them to work. Because the sunk cost of your enthusiasm is not a data point. Process beats conviction every single time. The team that runs 50 small disciplined tests will outlearn and outgrow the team that bets everything on one big, we feel good about this launch. There's something almost philosophical about the fact that the most powerful growth lever you have is simply not breaking trust with your users. It sounds obvious, yet billions of dollars are spent every year doing exactly the opposite. Consistency in ethical practice compounds just like interest. Every experiment you run with integrity is a deposit into a brand account that pays dividends long after the test is over. The beautiful irony here is that the growth teams most obsessed with speed are often the slowest in the long run, while the ones who slow down to ask, is this fair to our users, tend to build the flywheels that actually spin forever. Whether your next experiment works or fails is almost beside the point. What matters is that you built the muscle of running it well, because that muscle is the real competitive advantage. And honestly, we're comfortable with either outcome from a well-designed ethical experiment, because a failed test that taught you something real is infinitely more valuable than a successful test that eroded user trust and poisoned your data pipeline for the next quarter. Rational preparation, clear hypotheses, ethical guardrails, honest readouts means you win whether the result is green or red. The companies that will dominate the next decade aren't the ones with the cleverest tricks. They're the ones that earn the right to keep experimenting because their users still trust them. Discipline, sizing, and consistency are the unglamorous trio that separate compounding growth from a highlight reel that ends in a think piece about what went wrong. If you want help building a growth strategy grounded in these principles, or if you're looking to get started in real estate investing, need home contracting work done, or want to connect with the right lenders, check out our links in the description below.